Okay, it's 11 o'clock, people, and you're going to be glad you came on today. We got stuff. It's good stuff. So today is going to be all about generating listings. What I did was I bought all of the classes that were held at the NAR convention this last fall. And there was two classes on generating listings, and this one I might even do the other one, mix the other one in future meetings. But this is a good start to really prospect for. Has great information on prospecting for listings, who to prospect, what messaging to prospect with, and to generate some interest and some statistics that you might find a little surprising for those of you who've been in business a little while and maybe might be letting some stuff fall through the cracks that you're not aware of. So we're going to watch video. It's probably about, I'm estimating about a half hour, but these nuggets are all really good. So hopefully you all have notepads today and you're able to take down some of these ideas. Let me get to it. All right. So I kind of skip past some of the fluff at the beginning. This one is starting like where there's starts to be real concrete action steps, and then we'll just let it roll through. So go share screen. Sure. Cool. So we will discuss discuss some of these things after we get done, and as far as some ideas and things, action steps you might be able to do before the next meeting. And then next meeting we'll talk about the result of those things and any challenges that you may have experienced in implementing some of these strategies. So with that, I'm just going to let her roll.
Expect where you have a 25 to 45% the owner will transact this year. These are all free, ladies and gentlemen. You know, these are places that you can look that cost you nothing. Well, according to NAR, and this is a surprising, I know you, let me give you the numbers. So the way this chart is laid out, it is up here on this side, on the first row, it's 1 year to 21 years, okay? Time in home. And then going across is the age. So I love this number. And we think, the boomers control all the inventory, but what's actually happening, one of the best groups you can target are people between the ages of 22 and 30 who've been in their home 2 to 3 years. There is a 45% chance that they will sell in the next year. Almost 1 in 2. This is a great area to build a niche, especially for those of you who are, this is your age group. Wonderful place for you to start developing those relationships, because those people are going to be listing their properties. They're moving up, they're having babies. And then it's 35% if 4 to 5 years. Now, the bottom line here is the 21 years. And if you look at this part of the chart, we've got the baby boomers, 56, 25, and then the sweet spot is 66 to 74, 39%, 4 out of 10 chance that they will be selling their home. These numbers are places to spend your marketing money. Instead of shotgunning it or just looking at internet leads, you want to target. Now, how can I target my market? There are 2 sources that are excellent. REI Source is the first one, and Atom Data Solutions. You may have known that. Those of you who've been around the business for a long time is Realty Track. But REI Source is a CoreLogic product. Many of you are familiar with them as your as your MLS provider. But you can access them through your local title company. Go to reisource.com. They charge about 10 cents per name or so. It's a minimal charge. And you can tell them, I want people from the ages of 22 to 30 who've been in their home 2 to 3 years. And then you will get a targeted list from them that is a cleaned up list. cheaper than paying for leads from some of the online lead generation companies. Atom Solution is another opportunity to do this. Now, of course, one of the things I like to do, I'm a trainer at heart. I taught college for a lot of years. I taught psychology. I like training real estate. It's just in my blood. I love it. So I'm going to give you 3 marketing campaigns today, and these are all super simple. So here's the first one. You want to conduct a marketing campaign, and here's your thing. This can be a Facebook ad. This can be a postcard. Become a buyer before you sell your current home. Contact Sally Agent at 800-555-1212 to learn how. So this is a tremendous, super simple. Again, can you imagine if you put up a billboard somewhere where everybody saw that? Do you think maybe that would get some attention? Now, let's go on to strategy number 5. How many of you are wearing your name badge today? I know. Yes. And how many of you own realtor gear? Some say, okay. The number one thing, when I started, when I was in my 20s at Century 21, I got my gold jacket, and I would wear it to the market, and I would meet people. And I'd wear it to my open house, and I would meet people. And of course, when I started doing a lot of transactions, I didn't wear my gold jacket except to go to the meetings. But what happens is when you stop letting people know that you are an agent, then at that point, you're not taking advantage of one of the biggest times that you can be face to face. You go to a soccer game, you volunteer at an event, you go to PTA, whatever it is. You want to wear something that shows that you're in real estate. I remember when I first heard about somebody about 2 decades ago that got a T-shirt and dressed their dog up in it. They were advertising, their business by walking their dog. That's, by the way, a lot of people made money from doing that. Now, so what happens now when you've got your realtor gear on, and what's the question they're going to ask you? How's the market? And if you say it's fantastic or, it's great, wrong answer. So what you want to do is and this is the secret to closing. You want to ask closing questions. So what you're going to see in the scripts and things I'm covering today is I'm asking questions, because questions let you get to asking the question about setting the appointment. So instead of saying so Sally, how's the market? Which areas of most interest to you? So what I'm doing now is I want to find out, okay, which areas of most interest? I'm interested in Lakeview. Now, when you answer the actual question, you want to give them specific market data. Don't say it's great or anything else. You need to know how many months of inventory is on the market, or how many weeks. Good golly, given 1 week of inventory. I wonder why my property value was going up so much. I'm in Austin. It's crazy. Anyway, the Lakeview market is quite active with only 2 months of inventory. If you'd like to know the exact numbers, I can text or email you our Lakeview annual report right now. By the way, do you know anyone who's thinking about buying or selling a home? And the thing you need to notice here is that this has an offer of service. Would you like to know the exact numbers? Then you want to give them that report. And then notice I did not ask them if they were going to buy or sell. Instead, I want to know if they know anyone, because that's more people. They may not be in them, if I just ask them, then I lose the lead if they're not interested. But I want to ask about what they could do. Now, strategy number 7, I've been training this for 2 decades. This thing really works. You can call it an annual report if you're talking to a buyer, but if it's a seller, you want to call it an equity checkup. And here's what you need to include. Okay, everybody gives their CMAs out, right? Well, you're going to give something that's going to be way better. And by the way, this is the best time of year to do it right now before the holidays, because property taxes are going to be coming due, and people are really interested in it right now. Then you get a little bit closer to the holidays, not so much. But again, this is the perfect time to do it right now. So what you want to include in your equity checkup is, first of all, something that says the location. Here's a suburb. Iconic shot of one of your area's best known features. You're just, sending that nonverbal message that you know the market. And then, if you are not using NARRPR.com, put a big star next to this. Their reports are beautiful. You can see what they look like here. They're absolutely gorgeous. This is way better than doing a CMA. It looks so professional, even if you're brand new in the business. And again, it's a service that the National Association of Realtors offers to you at no charge. And here's the conversion. This is the thing that's so beautiful about this. You don't even have to do this, all this other stuff I'm going to talk about. They've got an app. I meet someone, how's the market? Would you like a copy of my annual report, or would you like some data about what's going on? Great. Would you like it via email or text? Good. I can text it to you or email it to you right now from the app. You just got a phone number. You just converted that lead in less than a minute. This works at open houses. It works when you meet someone. Get the app on your phone and take advantage of this. This is a way for you to convert leads on the spot. Be the first person, when they're asking, be the first person in front of them that gives them that data and get the listing. This works. Now, here's another site. This one is free. It's from Atom Data. And this thing is tremendous because it provides, this particular property is up in Orange County. So what they provide, there's no charge for this. But you can see from these charts, there's the crime, so we've got the crime index, and it shows where the former meth labs are. It even shows the pictures of the sex offenders. That's another story. But it tells you where there's underground gas problems, where there is, all these different areas about the natural hazards in the area. It also gives you information about schools. And by the way, they're not good on property values, but that's your job, right? They also have all kinds of details about the demographics. This is just a tremendous tool. Imagine that you gave somebody these two reports. Would you stand out from the competition? I mean, this is tremendous. It costs nothing. It costs you nothing to use these tools. Strategy number 8. I've got more good news for you here. The costliest mistake you can make, can you guess? Failure to stay in contact with your past clients. 89% of all clients would use their agent again, but only 26% actually did, because the reason? Their agents failed to stay in touch. And here's the good news, hot off the press at NAR. It's no longer people are selling one at, the numbers for the last 4 or 5 years have been people were moving once every 10 years on average. The new report says that number has dropped to 1 in every 8 years. This is a quantum shift. You might see, it's dropping to 9.5, but for it to drop that far, this means that people are transacting. You've got a 1 in 8 chance every time you call a past client or someone in your sphere that they will transact in the next year. So that's a 12.5% rate of return just from everyone that you talk to. 1 in 8. So the question is, maybe you've got somebody you haven't called for a couple of years, and COVID's a great excuse, but now that, if you're comfortable, of course, meeting face to face, and I assume that if you're here, you are, but here's your script. Good evening, John Naselli, agent. It's been way too long since we've talked. I'd like to buy you a cup of coffee, and we can get caught up. My alternative choice close, again, a question, always asking that closing question because I want the business. Does Friday or Saturday morning work for you? And they'll tell you if it doesn't. So again, for those of you who are new, asking the questions, ask for the appointment, the number one thing that you need to do. Now, this particular strategy is one of my personal favorites, something that was my top strategy from about 3 years ago. So how many of you are using video in your business? May I see your hands? Okay, those of you who are not, I want to encourage you, you've got that phone that does beautiful videos. I want to encourage you to start taking advantage of that. So, and it's easy to set up. So, how many of you are collecting testimonials from past clients? Great. Now, how many of you feel uncomfortable asking for a testimonial? Is that almost everybody? Okay. So, here's how this works. I'd like you to go back through your buyer and seller list and the people who are active and people that you transacted with in the past, and then go to them and say, would you be willing to give, this is especially true of your sellers, would you be willing to do a testimonial for what is great about living here? So I'm asking for a testimonial for the area, not for me. Big difference. Now, here are the benefits. When I ask for the testimonial, first of all, what's going to happen is I'm getting a warm face-to-face introduction to everybody in their Facebook and Instagram feed, because they have a YouTube feed, because I'm going to send that video to them, and they will post it in most cases. So now you're in front of all their database. Cost me zero to do that. About 2 minutes, tell me get your phone out, get a little mic, and away you go, you've got it, go post it. Doesn't get much easier than that. Now, most people will post your video to their social media sites, but so this is going to put you in front of their database of people. But here's what's interesting. Google does it now. Google loves two things in terms of ranking realtors. They love video and they love testimonials. And what's interesting, what Google does, and I came across this from somebody who was on the inside and kind of knew what these numbers were, but apparently the Google algorithm, if it's searching a person, will go to LinkedIn first. So if your LinkedIn profile isn't totally up to date, you want to make sure that it is, because Google is searching over there. By the way, put your name all in caps. You'll go to the top if they haven't changed that. Now, okay, so Google interprets these testimonials for the area as a testimonial for you. That means you're going to get higher ranking just by collecting these little videos about what's great about living here. So this is a tremendous tool for you. Now, here's the secret sauce. So I get introduced to John over here, and then I'm going to ask John, okay, this is great. Do you know anybody else who'd be willing to give a testimonial for the area? And he says, oh, good. My friend Susan, she loves being on Facebook and Instagram. Would she be willing to do that for me? Oh, yeah, let me put you in contact. Now, guess what? Susan really is active on the social media. I'm now going to get in front of her audience by asking that same question. What do you love about living in this area? And you can ask Susan for her recommendations. Do you see where this is going? This is generating tremendous amounts of leads at no cost to you. Stop paying money to these lead generation sites. You can lead generate by doing some very easy things. And those of you who don't want to be on camera, guess what? Point the camera at them and you're good. You get a little tripod, push the record button. It's super easy. Now, this is probably my favorite strategy from this year. How many of you have had a multiple offer situation in your businesses? Okay, almost everybody has their hands up. Great. Okay. So, did you do anything with all those other offers that came in and that you didn't accept? Well, this is a strategy from Linda Baker. She is a realtor in Atlanta, Georgia. And here's what she did. And I thought this was brilliant. We had 38 offers on our listing, and we have one new homeowner. Those 37 other buyers are still looking to buy in your neighborhood, and only one agent knows what every buyer is willing to pay, and that's me. Is that not great? Don't you love that? I mean, I thought that was absolutely one of the best strategies ever. Now, My last 5 strategies here are going to be getting a little deeper into the weeds. These were kind of the simpler ones, but these are the ones when we look at the good neighbor reports, the people who are doing this incredible work. I can tell you from being in the business for over 40 years that the most important thing I can do as a realtor is if someone is in a distressed property situation is to help them keep their home, to help their kids be able to stay in the same schools with their friends, to not have them ripped away from everything that they've come to love about their home. So here are some of the places that you can go to help deal with the problem. First of all, the chart you're looking at right now shows there are 1.9 million homeowners who are in serious delinquency right now. Coming out of forbearance, they're 90 days behind on their mortgage payments. I'm licensed here in California. At 90 days, you're 90 days behind. They are now able to start foreclosing. So these people need help right now. So the chart, what you're looking at, it takes you through starting, the 4 tall bars are kind of June through September. So these people are now now that we're here in November, they are going to be desperate to to really have their, get some help here. So how can you help them? You say you're not a foreclosure expert, but what you can do is show them some sites that will help them. This first one is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And the beauty of this is they have programs for homeowners, but they also have programs for renters and for landlords. And I saw some numbers a few weeks ago that showed that 20% of the landlords own one property and they're living in one of the units and they're making maybe $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000 a year. They need that income from that rental to keep it. So helping them stay in their home. And the beauty of these programs with the people who are in the rental market, with their landlords, these programs support the renter and the landlord, to work together to get the payments up to date. So the landlord gets their money and the renter gets to stay with grants. So this is a tremendous program. This is one to check out. And then the other one, again, and these links are on your handout, is the HUD, of course, the HUD programs. They have counseling. They will help people avoid foreclosure. They really want to keep homeowners in their homes. HUD is a tremendous resource here. So again, use these links. You don't have to do anything faster than here are a couple places where you can get some help. And now here's your second marketing campaign for distressed homeowners. Are you having, again, you can get a list of these people. Are you having trouble making your mortgage payments? There is help available. Again, can you imagine a billboard, Facebook ad, postcard? And again, you can use the targeted list that we talked about just a little bit ago to find out, who is having problems with this, because they can pull this data up. It is available. Now, I think we have some pretty good news from NAR. I don't have this double confirmed, but what's my understanding, based upon the sessions yesterday, that NAR has successfully, we believe, been able to protect the 1031 exchange. It's not final because they've still got. Yes. So, let's hear it for our leadership at NAR, for all the volunteers that people have put their, amen to that. Because those people, and what NAR is doing that I think is absolutely brilliant, they are taking it, the way that they're persuading the politicians is they're going out and telling the stories in the community, and the community, the grassroots pressure on the politicians is getting them to take action. I think this is a brilliant strategy, and it's something that, I think we all can support. So the question is, how can I find these investors who are having problems? Again, 2 sources here, both from ListSource, is again a CoreLogic product again. So these are investors who are behind on their mortgage payments. They charge about 31 cents per lead on average. But again, what happens is with an investor, if they've got one property, they may have 4, 5, 10, 12, properties. So they've got more than one in most cases. Secondly, REI source. And again, a lot of these people own 1 to 4 units, so they qualify for conventional loans for FHA, 1 to 4 units. You're not into the bigger units, which is harder. Now, this is brand new. I came across this literally 48 hours ago. There is a site called Oodle.com. Oodle is the biggest classified ad aggregator, probably in the world, but certainly in the United States. And they, some of the people that they ran Facebook Marketplace, if you're familiar with that. Okay, they ran Marketplace for many years. They have an Oodle Marketplace, by the way. It's a free place for you to market your listings. Put them on Oodle. Great place. But I discovered this when I clicked on foreclosures for Austin, Texas. And they are tracking pre-foreclosures. In other words, somebody who's missed a payment. It was free. I mean, they had a list of 338 listings. Some of these may be rentals, but again, you've got an investor client there. This is a tremendous site, and it costs you $0 to find these. And then, of course, NAR has, they have a new site. I think it's nar.competition. They've got a new site, their competition site that deals with what's going on in a whole variety of areas, but their eviction and foreclosure updates, this gives you the, what's going on in your state in particular with respect to foreclosures. Have they been able to start, what is the, what are the, and what are the programs that are out there? So there's a tremendous amount of great information on the NAR site specific to your state. Okay, here's another marketing campaign, and this is your targeted campaign. Are you struggling to make your payments due to the eviction moratorium? There is help available. Contact John Agent at 800-555-1212 to learn more. Strategy number 13. I remember when I was a little girl, my grandmother was forced to go into, she couldn't take care of herself because she had diabetes. And after my grandfather died, I remember her crying when, my dad took her home to her house, little house in Texas, and then, he had to take her back to the nursing home, the old folks home, as they used to call it. And she cried and cried and cried. That stayed with me. If you can help seniors stay in their home or to buy a new one, it is the greatest gift that you can give a family. Now, it may mean that the heirs are not going to get as much money, but what it does mean is that you are giving something to someone that is a huge gift to them. So, how many of you have heard of reverse mortgages? They got a really bad rap for a lot of years because they could eat up all the equity in a home, and they could end up end up having to owe more than what the home is worth. And FHA has changed those rules. The program that you're looking for, look for the FHA HECM program, because that's the one that has the limits in it. There may be some other ones out there, but this is the one that, I would recommend. So it's available for 1 to 4 units, primary residence only with no monthly payment. Proceeds can be used to purchase, refinance, or pay off an existing mortgage. Third, now the borrower must keep the property in good condition and keep taxes, utilities, HOA, fees, insurance, etc. up to date. So in other words, now to be able to qualify for this, you have to be 62 years of age. And the loan stays on the property until the last surviving borrower dies, sells, or moves out. So again, for 62 plus. So this is designed for, again, people who are in that price range, in the age range. Now, one of the big protections with the FHA program is that the borrower will never owe more than their home is worth when the loan is repaid. Second, The loan amounts available increase with age. So the older you are, the more loan that you can get. So if age 67, you can get 42% of the value of the property. At age 71, it jumps to 45% and still have no monthly payments. So here's how it works if you're going to purchase. Okay, so assume that we have a purchase price of $300,000 and your available loan amount's $162,000. Your settlement costs are $14,873. So this person will be able to walk away with essentially it'll cost $152,000 to close. So walk away with about $147,000 in actual, money that they could put in their pocket, and still have 0 payments. That's the key thing. So what is happening, this is a negatively amortizing loan. So the amount of the loan amount continues to go up. But the bottom line is, again, this, you've got this money for a whole variety of causes. First of all, to upsize to a more expensive home and have no payments, to free up funds to gift to children or grandchildren for college or to purchase their own homes, or to free up funds to cover medical or other emergencies and still have no monthly payments. So again, imagine someone gets hit with really terrible medical bills. They're looking at taking a traditional mortgage. They can't qualify for that. They don't have the increased money. And you can take their mortgage payment, wipe it out, and leave them with 0 payments. And then, and I talked to one of the people several years ago at an NA conference who this was his business. And he said he'd only had one case where a family didn't want, as he used to call it, help mom keep her house. So again, something that you take a look at. Now let's take a look. If you, especially for those of you who are brand new agents, the most important thing you can do when I can't compete against Zillow and the other big companies out there, all the big brokerages. I can't compete for a piece of the market, that they go after. But what I can do is I can compete for a specific niche because they don't have the funds to dive into just serving my subdivision. So if you are not, if you're still working as being a generalist, unless you're in a very small town, you really want to niche your business. They say niches lead to riches, and it's one of the most important things that you can do. Now, here's some niches that you want to take a look at. 18% are veterans. And this number, the single females, this is almost 1 out of 5 women. They make less than men do, but they're more likely to save a home and give up what they need to do to become a homeowner because they look at it as a smart investment. We're also seeing a big trend. How many of you are seeing, more people, joining, it's like you've got kids moving back in. In fact, I saw something out of the UK about 3 days ago. It said, it was an article about 50-somethings, 55, 56-year-olds moving in with their parents. But it's a little bit different from how you think, because grandma's there to help take care of the kids, but they can take care of grandma. So what we're seeing is, we're seeing these combinations, and of course, we have many people from across, from other countries where the norm is the family, you have an extended family living together, grandparents, aunties, uncles, they're in the same household together. And of course, senior citizens. Remember, about half have a property they need to sell in order to purchase. Now, if you have some questions, it looks like we're going to have time for them, so I'll be happy to take those. You can pop those into the app. They have an iPad up there for me to take questions, or you can shout them out. So if you've got questions, I'll be happy to take those. Okay, strategy number 15, target market life event-based sellers. We know that there are certain events in life when people will be more likely to sell. One of them is having a baby, right? Or more likely to buy. Now, two of the big ones one of the biggest ones, change in marital status. It's fun to work with people who are getting married for the most part. For those of you who haven't worked with clients going through a divorce, it's not for the faint of heart. Now, again, here's another way you can use the list that we talk about. There are 2 kids in a 2-bedroom condo. Mom is pregnant, by the way. They can tell, you go to the grocery store and you scan your little, card to get those points. You bought a pregnancy test. Guess what? That day, that data gets sold. Just saying. So parental income tells you look, 2 kids in a 2-bedroom, mom's pregnant, parental income high enough to move into a home. So again, taking a look at that. And this is a really fascinating one. So you want to search for, the search that you want to do here is 4 bedrooms, 1 child graduating from high school this year, their last child. There's a very high probability, if they're helicopter parents, they may move to where the kid's going to college, heaven forbid for the kid, but a lot of people, I have some good friends who did this. Their girls went off, they had twin girls, and their girls went off to college, got rid of the 4-bedroom house, and they moved into a 1-bedroom and an office. And if the girls were to come stay with them, they had to sleep on the sofa. So this was, So the high school graduation opportunity, 4 bedrooms, they're very highly, so people who have kids graduating in June, May or June, look for this. This is another time. And then we know that, the boomers and Gen X are moving. The prime time to buy a house is between the ages of 50 to 60. And again, what they're doing is they're trying out a new location, and then they may eventually. So we got people who, we see the snowbirds that come from, from the northern part of the country or from Canada into the southern part. And again, boomers compose only 22% of the population. The bottom line is we still own 42% of the property. So again, for those of you who are older in here, again, this is a great niche to, get involved in. So what I'd like to do, now a couple places to look, age 62 in a home that is 2,500 square feet, 2-story home for over 20 years. I live in a 55 plus community, and what I see a lot of people there have moved there because they have problems with their knees. They're having to have hip replacements, and they can't do the steps anymore. They need things that are ADA compliant. So this again, the boomers have, they control a lot of real estate. They're moving into many times they're forced to move because of health issues. And I don't want to be morbid here, but the oldest boomers who were born in 1946, they're 76 this year. And the problem is for them, males, the life expectancy in the US is 76 for men. So that means this year, half of those people who are 76 who are male will already be dead. So people are being forced to move because of illness and death. And, so again, there are a lot of baby boomers and they own a lot of real estate. Again, and we see people downsizing or upsizing. So what I'd like to do right now before we get to the key points is to take some questions and see if we've got anything on the iPad here. And it's not up. So I'm going to go ahead and take live questions if anybody has any. I hear crickets. Yes.
Okay, I'll stop it right there. And let's kind of review some of these strategies. Some of them are kind of like, oh yeah, well, duh, but I think in the context of Ninja, when you're looking at your hot and warm list and or your database in general, these are kind of some key overlays that you may want to consider. The big thing is making contact voice to voice and face to face. The Ninja video, there's a Ninja video this week that talks about that is the relationship. Making those phone calls, reaching out and actually talking to people is more effective than just emailing them or sending them direct mail. You need to do those things to remind them, but you also need to follow up in person. If you aren't, somebody else is. The one key point she made in here, and this was earlier on the video, but 50% of the buyer leads you have a house to sell. So right now, I think we, as we're getting bombarded with, oh, here, I'm gonna stop share. As we're getting bombarded with buyers, and we're like, oh, I don't need buyers, I need sellers. Take it, know that you are likely giving up those sellers by not taking those buyer leads or buyer calls, right? And so, and especially if you saw that graph early on, especially the 22 to 30-year-olds who've been in their home 1 to 3 years and they have like 100 grand equity all of a sudden, they're excited, right? And I can look straight at Carlos on this one. When he came into our first class, then he's like, I'm selling my property and I'm going to buy another one. I'm like, don't sell your property. Get a line of credit on it. Use that money to buy something else, right? And he was, if we would not have had that conversation, he'd be a seller right now. And so I know that dynamic is real because I've seen it, right? And so that's something for those of you who are in that demographic. As you're reaching out to people, know that there's some real desire for movement in that realm. And then a couple of other things that kind of stood out to me on that was, one, the resources, the websites you can go to like Oodle, REI Source, and the I can't remember what the other one was. I got to look at the home here. Let me just scroll back through because I have it on my video up here.
This number,
sorry.
single.
But there is some. So Oodle, what was it? And home disclosure. So the other kind of pieces of tech that we all have access to is RPR. And on RPR, you can do a little neighborhood report to somebody through the app and email it or text it to them instantly. That I love how she answers the how's the market question, right? Instead of going off on stats, because that's what I teach you guys to do. All you new agents have gone through, I'm like, you need to know your stats to be credible. And you still do. However, I see huge value in asking that question, what part of the market are you interested in? And because then they're going to qualify that question with, oh, well, I have a house in Eagle Ridge, or we're thinking about buying in Northwood, or whatever it is. So it's a brilliant question to ask, because then you can tailor your response to, well, generally the market's done this, this, and that, with your general stats saying, yeah, I know what's going on, but let me get you specific information as to what's going on in Northwood or Eagle Ridge or whatever. Can I get your phone number and I'll just text it to you, right? Or your email or whatever. And you're capturing that contact information right there. So I found that to be brilliant. Other thing, you guys, and this is a real deal right now too. I know I've been working with Julene. She had a guy who inherited 3 triplexes, and they're not in the greatest neighborhoods and they're not in the best of shape and whatever, but he's had one tenant out of the 9 not pay rent in 16 months. And he's like, you know what? What can I get for these things? I'm thinking I'm going to sell these, because he hasn't raised rents. He hasn't been an active landlord. He doesn't have a property manager. I think that is a group that is ripe for selling, given some of the, some of the political initiatives in Washington state and in the city regarding eviction moratoriums and things like that. Some people are freaked out about that. And they might be interested in selling. So, and by the way, that's easy to look up absentee owners. Contact your favorite title company and go, can you give me some absentee owners that have owned the property more than X amount of years, if you want to narrow it down, and start farming that list, right? Um, uh, so those are kind of some of the things. And the other messaging that she had that I thought was brilliant was saying, hey, are you having trouble with your mortgage? Can I direct you to some resources so you don't have to sell? What a great way to start off getting a rapport with somebody you don't know by offering something that doesn't necessarily benefit you, right? Because if they explore it, if they do it, if they keep their property, they're going to remember, God, Eric didn't have to do that. And that was awesome. And if I ever sell, I'm using that guy, right? Or conversely, they go through the steps in the program and they're like, oh, I don't qualify for this, or I don't want to do this. I think I just want to liquidate, right? And then you're the person right in their eyesight. So you're top of mind, right? And so I like those messages, and especially from a ninja perspective, offering something of value, regardless of the benefit to yourself, and helping people out. So I'll just open up for general discussion. Did anybody take away anything out of that outside of the points I mentioned that they think they might take advantage of? Was there any? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
kind of like not being a secret agent.
Yeah. I mean, duh, right? I mean, it's like the 101 thing where we're like, hey, wear your name tag like all the time. And then go out in the world and have people ask you, right? And then, if you're going to do that, you want to be prepared for that question. How's the market? What are interest rates doing? Are they going to raise interest rates? And those are things we can talk about now, right? Are rates going to go up, by the way? Do you guys? Yeah. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, it's on NPR every morning. Like, yeah, they're raising them in March. Mm-hmm. And we know what about interest rates?
That when they go up, the purchasing power goes down.
Correct. 1 point equals 10% less buying power. And that's messaging I've used in the media this last quarter. I'm going to use it at the Spokane Kootenai Regional Economic Forum that I'm presenting at. And it's funny because people they don't know this, right? They don't equate it to an actual number. No one really quantifies it for them. And so that's a great one to keep off the top of your head and say, yeah, if you're going to do something, you probably want to do it before March, if you can, and take advantage of that interest rate. So yeah, not being a secret agent. Yeah. Awesome point. What else? Are you guys calling your hot and warm lists right now and talking to them and just being like, hey, well, what's going on? Right. Go ahead, Kelsey.
The one thing I liked is that we've all talked about doing CMAs. And I actually watched a Town Ferry webinar yesterday. We're going to talk about it in our sales meeting tomorrow a little bit, but he said for his clients, he's got 16 to 1 that people are mailing or emailing out CMAs. They're following up with a video text and an email the next day. And they're getting 16 to 1 appointments. For every 16 they send out, they're getting an appointment. Wow. But I like the verbiage that she used with the equity evaluation for that. I think there's some catchiness to that for the people that aren't looking to move in an opening a conversation way, rather than here's what your home is worth. Do you want to sell it? Hey, here's what your equity's worth. I can provide value. Who else do you know that needs this value?
Yeah.
Two different statements.
Absolutely. I can tell you when I was doing open houses and I slayed at open houses, actually that was my script. I would say, well, Larry, thanks for coming in today. It's awesome. And we, this is after we have a back and forth. I'm like, well, do you have a home to sell? And Larry's like, yeah, I do. And I would say, well, gosh, if you want, I can give you a market analysis so you can see your equity position. in that, and decide if it makes sense to move or not, or whatever. And I'm happy to do that for you. And that, so that it's just a little less, less about me, right? It's about what they have versus what I'm going to give them. And so I do like that. I do, because I'd used it, talking about equity, talking about their equity position versus their value. What else did we get away from that? Or take away from that, I should say. Nothing, or must you chicken? Yeah. Let me go through. So did you all write down those websites to look at? And again, this might be something where you start in your neighborhoods, see if there's any absentee owners in your neighborhoods that are renting stuff out. Perhaps look and see if there is anybody in pre-foreclosure, and offer them help. And maybe that first thing is, hey, you have equity, you can sell. Maybe that's not your first messaging. Maybe your first messaging is, do you need help? There is still some assistance programs out there for you to, if either protect your mortgage from a deadbeat renter, or help you get caught up on your mortgage if you're behind. And some of those programs might be gone or whatever, but I think she gave us some resources, some good resources to look those up. So the two demographics that people are hitting is, or that she said are most active, are the 22 to 30-year-olds that have owned from 2 to 5 years, as a reminder, and then, or 56 plus that have owned their homes 21 years or more. And those people are those are the most active demographics as of this last year, which will probably continue to be through this year. Yeah, so we're seeing some great, I just thought this would be a good one to just give you some ideas of either demographics to focus on in your hot and warm list, right? And kind of overlay some of this data, or if you're going out and generating new leads or building your database, this is a great place to start. And these lists exist from your favorite title company. Talk to whomever the title rep is and get those list of names, and hey, door knock, right? I mean, and just say hi, right? And some of those email pieces are great too. Yeah, Larry?
Doesn't Coldwell Banker have some big data predictive algorithm that they use to do this kind of target farming?
They did, and they discontinued it. They found that people were not utilizing it, and so they discontinued it. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Sadly. So unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. But so cool. So you guys, like I say, those frustrated investors, absentee owners, landlords, those are all kind of low-hanging fruit right now, and probably you're most likely to list, because they don't have to find another place to buy if they want to just liquidate and take the money and run. For those people who need to find something to buy, I loved that one messaging where it was a listing agent, and by the way, maybe you didn't have a listing, but maybe someone in the office did, and they're like, nah, I'm good, I'm busy enough, I don't want to prospect. And maybe you can say, hey, we listed this home in Turtle Creek and received 10 offers, and we know what all those offers were. and what the likely value of your home would be, or what those buyers would be willing to pay for your home. Call us today for a free estimate of value, or something like that. I mean, I think that's pretty slick. I like that one. And it shows, if your listing agent is really powerful, but I think there's a way to leverage that in messaging, as long as you get permission from the listing agent, i.e. the seller, to use that messaging. That's a great way to generate some phone calls too. So yeah. So that's kind of what we had for today. We're around about 5 minutes short. Does anybody have anything further they want to add to this, or maybe some success stories they've had in generating listings that wasn't mentioned on this? All right, going once, going twice. Okay, good enough. All right. Well, let's I'm gonna stop.